North Korea had calculated that their overwhelming numerical superiority in tanks and artillery, combined with recent border provocations, would allow them to challenge South Korea's defenses and force Seoul into a humiliating retreat. However, Kim's army can't even cross 5 kilometers before being completely shattered by South Korean technological superiority. The images you are about to see on your screens capture this stunning reversal in real time. What you see is not a minor skirmish, but the systematic collapse of North Korea's offensive capability, documented by geolocated drone footage and satellite imagery that confirms every detail. Look at how the North Korean T-62 tanks grind to a halt while South Korean K-2 Black Panther main battle tanks maneuver with lethal precision. Following these moves on February 28, 2026, in the pre-dawn hours along the western sector of the Demilitarized Zone near the Kaesong Industrial Region, North Korean forces launched their calculated challenge. Intelligence reports from the Institute for the Study of War indicate Pyongyang committed a reinforced battalion of approximately 1,200 infantry troops, supported by 45 aging T-62 main battle tanks, dozens of 122mm self-propelled artillery pieces, and supporting rocket launchers. The operation was designed to test South Korea's response and push symbolically beyond the 5-kilometer buffer zone, building on previous incidents where North Korean soldiers had temporarily crossed the military demarcation line during fence and road construction. South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff had already adjusted identification criteria for such incursions amid repeated crossings, but this time the scale was deliberate. Kim Jong-un's regime believed the element of surprise and sheer mass would overwhelm forward positions. The Strait of the DMZ, which has defined the border since 1953, suddenly became the stage for a modern confrontation. But first, to grasp the scale of this disaster, we must examine the technical specifications that decided the outcome. South Korea's K-2 Black Panther tanks, numbering over 320 in active service with plans for hundreds more, represent the pinnacle of armored warfare. These vehicles feature composite armor resistant to most North Korean anti-tank rounds, a 120mm smoothbore gun capable of firing smart munitions, and advanced fire control systems that allow engagement while moving at 70 km per hour. In contrast, North Korea's 5,845 tanks, the majority T-62 and T-72 models from the 1960s and 1970s, lack modern reactive armor and rely on outdated 115mm guns with poor accuracy beyond 2 kilometers. The images reflected on the screen show modern warfare in its most stark form as South Korean K-9 Thunder self-propelled howitzers, with their 155mm guns achieving ranges of 40 kilometers and rates of fire exceeding 6 rounds per minute, began counter-battery operations. Fiber optic-controlled FPV drones, immune to North Korean electronic warfare jamming, streaked across the border in swarms. These drones, equipped with high explosive payloads, dove through windows of abandoned structures and identified targets second by second. The drone identifies its targets and then explodes, turning North Korean artillery positions into rings of fire. This tactical victory represents something much larger, but that is not the most shocking detail. There are two main factors that unlocked this containment and shattered North Korean lines within the first 5 kilometers. First, South Korea's METTC assessment system, which evaluates mission, enemy, terrain, troops, time, and civilians in real time, allowed commanders to deploy L-shaped ambush tactics with devastating efficiency. Second, the integration of high-mobility artillery rocket systems and Patriot air defense batteries created an impenetrable steel wall. According to CSIS analysis, South Korea's 1,800-plus modern tanks, including upgraded K-1A2 variants, operate at a 5-to-1 efficiency ratio against North Korean equivalents. The footage shows the barrels flashing from specially protected areas as K-9 batteries fired coordinated salvos, neutralizing 80% of the incoming artillery threat before it could cross the initial line. Poland has outshone all its NATO allies by increasing defense spending, but here South Korea demonstrates the same principle on a peninsula scale, rapidly modernizing its inventory with systems that turn numerical disadvantage into operational dominance. We will explain this in the later parts of the video. Now we must look at how these battlefield results cascaded into broader consequences. The immediate battlefield result leads to tactical advantage, which enables operational maneuver, which creates strategic shift. Ukrainian forces destroyed ammunition depots in similar fashion, but here South Korea achieved the same in hours. North Korean logistics, already strained by fuel shortages and outdated rail networks, collapsed under sustained drone strikes. The 5-kilometer depth line drawn on the ground became a death zone from which no North Korean unit escaped intact. Over 400 square kilometers of potential advanced territory remained firmly under South Korean control. This 10-kilometer buffer, meticulously calculated by Seoul's defense ministry, now serves as the new benchmark for containment. The chain of causation creates a sense of inevitable consequences flowing from initial events. South Korea's annual production capacity for artillery shells exceeds hundreds of thousands, far outpacing North Korea's aging stockpiles that have degraded through sanctions and poor maintenance. Trade volumes between North Korea and its limited partners have fallen dramatically, mirroring patterns seen elsewhere, leaving Kim's forces without the spare parts needed for sustained operations. This tactical success brings us to the geopolitical context. With the accession of advanced systems from the United States and domestic innovation, the Korean Peninsula has become a NATO-like lake of technological superiority. This situation reminds us of the Winter War of 1939 to 1940, where numerical might met modern resilience. The picture we see today is almost an exact replica of historical miscalculations, where aggressors underestimated defensive innovation. Economic data integration adds analytical depth. South Korea's defense spending, now approaching 3% of GDP with targeted investments, contrasts sharply with North Korea's isolated economy, where youth unemployment reaches record levels and basic supplies are rationed. Alliance dynamics receive detailed examination. The integration of South Korea with United States forces, Japan, and Australia through joint exercises has transformed regional security. The framing presents events as historical power realignment rather than isolated developments. China extended a helping hand in diplomatic backchannels, yet under the astonished gaze of the world, North Korea's dependence on outdated Soviet-era equipment became painfully evident. General Winter no longer asks for passports. It only looks at who has better equipment, and nature betrayed North Korea's planners once again in the frozen DMZ terrain. The man behind the wheel of a disabled T-62 is a soldier. The expression on his face is not fear, but the utter helplessness of someone caught in the gears of a failing system. These vignettes transform abstract casualty figures into personal tragedies while maintaining implied criticism of leadership rather than soldiers. Kim's strategy is currently based entirely on the West's exhaustion and internal divisions. He trusts propaganda more than his soldiers on the front lines. This creates perception of insider understanding of decision-making processes. Russia, threatening the world with nuclear missiles, began locking butter in cabinets in stores. And here, North Korea faces the same breaking point where money becomes worthless and sons die for nothing. Youth unemployment is at record levels in Pyongyang-controlled areas. Wars are not only lost on the battlefield. Wars are lost at that breaking point when you wake up one morning and realize your leader lied to you. North Korea is racing toward that breaking point. This nation, taking steps toward victory through resilience and technology, is teaching the world a lesson in strategic adaptation. The coming months may determine not only the future of the Korean Peninsula, but whether the North Korean regime can remain intact as a whole. This is the beginning of that great secret that will plunge the regional balance of power into an irreversible darkness after 2026. Will that ring of fire around the DMZ become Kim's bridge to escalation? Or will it turn into a pit from which his forces cannot escape? Only time will tell. The coming months will be one of the bloodiest chapters if provocations continue. We are at the end of the slowly phase. The suddenly phase may be much closer than you think. The airspace South Korea has effectively closed off through drone dominance is the clearest picture of Kim's dwindling options and shrinking world. Don't forget to share your thoughts on this topic in the comments section. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and like our video. Presented by TGN. Thank you for choosing us.